Alright, so in this tutorial, I'm going to talk about specifically on how to check if your controllers, right, your animation controllers, if they're set up the right way, or if they're prepped the right way, or you could say if they're placed the right place, placed in the right area in relation to the bones, and some checking the controllers as a safety measure before committing into further down the rigging process. Yeah, let's just call it that. Anyway, so I have here, this here is for the letter O. Right, for the letter O, I have the X-ray mesh, which is this right here. I have the X-ray bones, which is here. Alright. Anyway, so I'm going to go into my front, orthographic front. Not using the perspective and clicking on front, but specifically orthographic front. I'm going to try to hide my grid for a second. And so let's check. One of the first things you want to check is where to zoom in. I'm going to hide my mesh. And then from here, so the animation controller, I've labeled it, for example, right side, and it's single-sided. This is controller 8. For the sake of organization and troubleshooting, naming your controllers will help tremendously. It will prevent you from going crazy, basically, when things break, when they're named nicely. And you will notice where the animation controller, right, as you can see, first thing you notice is that the pivot handle is right at the tip. If your pivot handle is, for example, something like this, and it's not the best. No, I mean, this is okay, right? This is okay. Doing this is okay. The distance, long as, right? For example, when I say this distance is okay, right? This is if, right, your controller's pivot point, right, where it can do this, whatever, and move, whatever. If this pivot point is sitting flush with the center of the ball joint, right? If the pivot point of the controller is centered flush to the ball joint, then having like this gaps is okay. But if say your pivot point is like this, and it's kind of far away from the joint, this is not good, because it needs to be sitting flush. Okay, so I talked about that. Next thing is your controller. Is it, let's say, how do I explain this? Okay. So is your controller, is there data in the channel box? Is there data in the channel box? For example, I have here 0.014, 0.019. If there's data in here, other than scale X, Y, and Z having 1, 1, and 1, the translate, no, there should be no data. For your specific, again, for your controllers, there should be no numbers. Like this should be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. If you have numbers in here, again, specifically regarding controllers, not the joints, specifically regarding the controllers, if you have numbers in here, that is wrong. that means you forgot to freeze transformations, which is the snowflake icon, right? So I'm gonna put this back, and you can see here it's all zeros. Okay, when it's like this controller, it's all zeros, all zeros, all zeros. So those are the two things regarding controllers to look out for. It should be zero, all zeros. The position in relation to the bones should be all zeros. And the way you can just make sure is before you commit further is to select all your controllers and freeze transformations. That'll wipe out any leftover data that needs to be flushed out for your controllers, because these controllers, they need to be clean or pristine so that there's no data. That's the bigger picture. There's reason why when you get into animation. Alright, and then what else to look out for before you commit? I guess that's about it. Yeah. Even these guys, you notice how they're dead center to the center of the ball joint, center of the ball joint, dead center to the center of the ball joint. And you know, because you can look here, see, this is top down. Here you can see, I mean, you can't see the, you can see the line of it, but you see how it's dead center to the ball joint. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, just bear with me. Like that. Here's my COG, perfectly cleaned out. Everything is cleared out. Yeah, so that's how you check your controllers. Alright. I think that's about it. I guess one other thing is where, let's say if you needed to mirror the other side of the controllers, right? So let's see if I grab this, and this. I'm gonna hide it. And then I'm gonna just group it. Alright. Let's say if you want to mirror this. Right? Mirror joints. You could just make a copy, Control D, right? And then turn on the grid, right? After you make the copy, right? Here's my copy. Then you do press D as in David, hold X as in X-ray, and move it to the center line. Again, this is the copy. Right, I move the pivot to the center line in the front. Then you could do -1, like that, to make a copy. Or, right, the faster way to do it is to grab all of them, okay, and then you do a Control G to group it, right? I'm gonna name it R group, right? So I grouped these controllers, and then what I can do is press Control D to make a copy of that right group, right? Which is now named right group L. And you notice how the pivot point is dead center for the whole entire thing. And then I go into negative and press scale X -1, again selecting the group, press enter, and now you flipped it completely over. Then with this group selected, I can go edit, ungroup, and you have everything here like that when you ungroup it. And then now you have to just contend with renaming these things, which you could do over here. You may or may not see it, right? Just click on this little vertical tab, and then you click on this weird looking icon. It may look like this, it may look like that. You choose this rename. Right, again, this is may look like this. Crack that open. You click here, you choose rename. Chances are it's probably set to this. You change it to this. And then with everything selected, you type in, say for example, left side, right? And then whatever has the letter R is gonna replace it with the letter L. And then hit enter. That's weird. Why didn't it change? It's supposed to change. Huh. It just worked out at the moment. Anyway, so but as you can see, there's data now, 180 degrees and -1, because of the copying and flipping it over. So you just again grab everything. Again, this is relating to mirroring controllers on the other side, and then you freeze transform. See, everything is zeroed out. This is just 1, 1, and 1, and it does it for every single one of these controllers. And then if you have to, go ahead and just rename it with, like, say L, and then rename it. This should have worked. I don't know why it didn't work. I just did it momentarily ago. Anyway, so that's how you set that up. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that, and then ungroup, and then this, select all of that. Ungroup. There you go. So that's pretty much what to look for when double checking the prepping of your controllers, right? Again, like I said, make sure that just a quick overview, make sure your handles of your controllers are, first of all, sitting flush at the beginning point of your controller, right? Your manipulation handles. Also make sure that it is sitting flush to the ball of the joint, which is just basically holding down V as in Victor and snapping it. Make sure your mesh is not showing because it can interfere, right? And lastly, make sure everything is frozen transformations. 0, 0, 0, 0, and just 1, 1, 1, 1. And then you should be good. And like I said before, it is okay if you're at this much distance, right? Because what could happen is that you could stop it like that. It's okay to have this much distance. But this again needs to have 0 information there. So there's that little change that can be done. Right. So main thing is freeze transformations. Make sure the pivot point is good and sitting flush to the bone, and that's it. All right, bye.